Hi there, it's Lisa Belleci St. Romain here on our 29th Sunday in Ordinary Time. We're getting close to the end of our liturgical year. Our first reading is from the book of Isaiah and is part of the Suffering Servant song. But I as a lector feel a need to give my all and my assent to the words. And this first line, the Lord was pleased to crush him in infirmity. Well, who is that God? What is that God? So I had to go to BibleHub.com and see what other translations were saying, right? And so one of them was, it was the Lord's will. So that's a little different thing because we pray for God's will to be done versus pleased, right? So that immediate pleasing. Here's another one. The Lord chose to prostrate himself and afflict himself. So that was so interesting. It was like God very self happening. The Lord decided his servant would suffer as a sacrifice. That's another one. Was pleased to bruise him. Well, bruise is a little less intense sounding than crushed. But then there was one that said delighted to crush him. Okay. So we know that the translations vary, but that somehow I can assent to God's will. Okay, why? Because if he gives his life as an offering, he shall see his descendants. So it is for us. It is for us. And then another one that didn't quite work for me was because of his affliction. Affliction. And so one of the translations was anguish of his soul. And when I think what Jesus went through on that whole Triduum, because of his anguish of his soul, he shall see the light of day, or the light of fullness. So those help me make more willingness in my spirit to read these words as they are written. Does that make sense to you? That I can give my assent to these words and I can make them happen. So let's see how that might be, right? So a reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah, and you know that we will count three before we start our actual reading. The Lord was pleased to crush him in infirmity if he gives his life as an offering for sin. So you see how I'm connecting that immediately was if he gives his life, because that's why there was this crushing, right? He shall see his descendants in a long life, and the will of the Lord shall be accomplished through him. Why do we make any sacrifice? Because we believe it is God's will, and God would like to use this sacrifice in some way for something better. Because of his affliction, he shall see the light in fullness of days. Through his suffering, my servant shall justify many. There, I think that's the crux, okay? And we take that very slowly. And their guilt he shall bear. And so we owe this humongous debt of gratitude then. And then the 1, 2, 3, and the word of the Lord. Okay, so I promised that I would read this straight through. And so a reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah. The Lord was pleased to crush him in infirmity. If he gives his life as an offering for sin, he shall see his descendants in a long life, and the will of the Lord shall be accomplished through him. Because of his affliction, he shall see the light in fullness of days. Through his suffering, my servant shall justify many, and their guilt he shall bear. The word of the Lord. Okay, so take it slowly and you decide how you're going to emphasize those words so that you can bring the point across that God is doing this to Jesus and Jesus is allowing it for a particular purpose. Well, that's a duh, but anyway, here we go with Isaiah. All right, God bless.